Hi, my name is Sean Stevens, and this is
John O'Guthrie.
And today I'm going to learn a little bit of Lasso 9, Lasso 9 Love, because there's been a big change in Lasso 9 in terms of containers.
Yes.
Now, a container is what?
Okay, so line 3 and line 5 in the code that you see there, you have an opening loop and a closing loop in line 5. So that is effectively a container.
A container, okay.
So other examples of a container would be while, would be if, would be inline.
While, if, and inline.
Yeah,
those are all fairly important in Lasso coding.
They are. So, and there's a lot of different containers. Iterate is another one.
Iterate, right? That's another good one.
So anything that has an opening like a loop and then a closing like you see there in the loop, that is a container.
Interesting. And so, how can we write them in Lasso 9 that's better?
So Lasso 9 introduces the concept of the capture and
the capture.
The capture. Okay, so
as in capture the flag.
Not quite.
Okay.
All right, so let's convert this Lasso 9 code that runs perfectly fine in Lasso 9. You see the 200, no problem there.
No semicolons.
No semicolons. No colons.
There's no colons of any type anywhere.
So let's convert this one to to using captures. So first of all, to indicate a capture, we have equals, angle bracket.
It's like a little smiley face.
A little bit like that.
With lines for eyes. And a square mouth.
So we've got our braces.
Yes.
Okay. So everything within the braces is deemed to be a capture. So press enter. It gives us our space, gives us our formatting, and I'm just simply going to move that var1 up.
How did you move that up so fast?
Okay, in Lasso Lab, well, in fact it's an Eclipse thing, you can press Option and then the up or down arrow, and that will shift the current line or lines up and down.
Wow, that's handy.
Yep.
Thanks for that.
No problem at all. Now, we don't need this loop anymore, because look at this. We have our capture. So if we double click on the end and on the beginning, then you can actually see that it is highlighting the beginning and the end. And
so you've actually removed the closing loop and you've replaced it with little mustaches.
That's correct. So if we go save,
there's a lot of little mustaches then in your code.
And run, it's doing exactly the same thing.
Right.
Okay. So this is functionally equivalent to start loop and end loop.
But then, you can't tell at the end. Well, what's the benefit of this?
Okay, the benefit of this is the fact that in almost all code editors, when you are trying to find the beginning and the end of the container block,
yes,
previously you'd get so many places in your code that would say, I can't find the closing container. So you've not got your nested containers correctly. This will actually help nest your containers correctly.
Interesting.
Okay.
Wow, so and it's actually a lot less code, so it'll actually remove a lot of that.
Less code, less keystrokes, visually easier to deal with, cleaner.
So is this in the same way? Is this going to output information in the same way as the sort of the old way in quotations?
Okay, so here's the catch. So with the older style containers, they were by default what we call in Lasso 9. Once again, there's a new term in Lasso 9 called autocollect.
Autocollect.
That's correct. So in the older style containers, which you can still use valid, no problem at all in Lasso 9, they were by default what we call autocollect.
Okay.
So therefore, if you put in here the current value of var1, and then we're going to put in a break, and you run that, you would expect that under Lasso 8, if we had
in the old loop methodology, the classic container.
Yep. And so let's just get rid of this,
and it will actually automatically spit that out for me.
That's correct. So wow, easy, right? So that is by default autocollect. But if we now undo to go back to our to our capture, it is silent.
So this new container model,
yep,
in Lasso 9 doesn't spit information out.
That's
like
right.
The old containers used to.
Do you want to?
I want to, yes.
It's very easy. Okay, so the extension to the capture is the caret. So if you put a caret in just after the beginning of the capture and just before the end of the capture. Now, I'll just explain something very, very quickly. What's happening here? Lasso Lab is trying to be intelligent. It's trying to be helpful, and so when I type,
by giving me multiple carrots.
well, it's assuming that you're actually going to build this up rather than convert. Okay?
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'll show you in a moment how we would actually build it up rather than convert. So it's giving me 2 because it always assumes that you're going to have 2.
Right.
Right. So by putting in the carrots, it converts the capture from being a standard capture to being an auto-collect capture. This is functionally equivalent to having the open
old
loop
style loop.
That's right.
Interesting.
There we have
There
it.
you go.
Okay. Now I'll show you how we would tend to build that up.
Okay.
So if we were to, for instance, have an
So if you're
inline.
building from scratch.
We're building from scratch. So I'm just typing in inline, and then I've just started by typing an opening bracket.
Yes.
And it's given me my closing bracket.
I see that.
Okay. And I'm going to type in database equals X. Okay. Now here's the shortcuts in Lasso Lab. Space equals angle bracket, space. You don't need the spaces, but I prefer them. And then I'm just starting with an opening brace, and it's given me my closing brace. I then type 1 caret, and it gives me 2. My insertion point is immediately in the middle, and I just press return, and it formats it nicely for me, indents the next line, and away we go.
And you're ready to start showing fields or
That's
returning
right.
information.
Records, and I'll do the same thing. So I'm just going to go equals, like so.
So you put records in that container methodology as well.
That's correct, because records is a container.
Of course it is.
Okay. Now, you don't need to have every single level of your container, of your containing capture having auto-collect if you just want the inner container auto-collect.
Okay. Oh.
Right. So if we
you don't want your inline to spit everything out. So if you wanted stuff inside there, you're doing some variable changes, etc.
Yeah.
You don't want that to spit out anything.
That's right. So
you don't output anything from that set. You want the rest to be output just from records itself.
That's right. So that there will output the contents of records. But if you've got anything whatsoever inside the inline capture and outside the record capture, it's not going to output anything. It's only going to output the specific capture.
So you could even have iterate through your records twice. Once to do an action, second to output information.
Yeah.
And one could output and the other one wouldn't.
That's
like
correct.
that.
And so this is one way that you can turn debug output on and off if you really want to.
Interesting. Now if I don't auto-collect, so if I remove my carrots totally from here like this, is there a way to get it to output something?
Yes, there certainly is. But I would suggest that that creating a variable. So if we were to say local y equals string, and then on line 10, go y plus equals that, then it is going to build up my my local variable y with the contents that I'm giving to it from the records, and then outside we're just outputting y.
Interesting.
Make sense?
No, but let's say I wanted inside records. I want to actually display, or I want to put something out here, like Bob. Is there a way to get it to display something from within that record block?
Oh,
Like,
you would need to.
You have to have the autocollect.
That's right.
It will not output anything unless you autocollect that information.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, it's great information. Now I get it. I've been staring at that code for a bit, and I haven't for a while.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Jonah.
No problem at all.
You rock.
Слушайте Поночный радиошоу.